Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people conform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some malicious compliance. Won't give us proper safety equipment? Fine, we won't do any work. I work as an industrial mechanic in a big, multi-site facility that has a reputation of being super strict about safety. They often go well beyond the bare minimum required by OSHA, oftentimes to the point of ridiculousness. Their safety program is very tedious and zero tolerance, which means if you are caught violating their program, you are terminated on site. All of this is good, of course. The employees stay protected, and the employer stays protected from lawsuits. That being said, from a mechanic's point of view, sometimes these regulations can make a 1-hour work ticket turn into a 4 to 8 hour work ticket due to all the setup we usually have to do to obey their safety program. Despite this, it's a great place to work. I've been there for nearly a decade now, and I've enjoyed almost every minute of it. But as you are about to learn, I didn't always feel this way. When you are hired as a mechanic, they send you a bunch of classes for training. One of these classes is strictly for safety, and that's arc flash training. If you don't know what arc flash is, it's basically a concussive explosion that can happen when you're doing live electrical work. It's oftentimes invisible and completely unexpected, so it's obviously very dangerous, and all matter of caution needs to be taken to protect oneself from such a thing. When you complete the class, you're eventually given arc flash personal protective equipment, or PPE, which usually only takes about a month or so to receive. I know this is a lot of information, but it's all relevant, trust me. One of my employer's super strict safety policies is that unless there is no other option, any work done on any machine must be in a zero energy state, except for basic troubleshooting. This means that the machine must be locked out with personal locks and tags at all energy sources by a person with proper arc flash PPE before any repairs can be done, with no exceptions. You have to have arc flash PPE to put a machine into a zero energy state. If you don't have it, then you can't do it. Remember, absolutely zero tolerance. Well, after my training was over, I was assigned to an off-site location with only 2 other mechanics on a night shift, one of which was also new. Only one mechanic on our shift had arc flash PPE, and that was because he was already a senior mechanic who had been there for a long while. Well, after a few months of training with this senior mechanic, he got transferred to the next shift, which was the morning shift. This created a problem, because neither I nor the other new guy had yet to receive our own arc flash PPE, and we had been relying on the senior mechanic to lock out machines for us. We addressed this with our boss via email, and he said that we just need to do what work we can, which was just basic troubleshooting, and he'll get us our gear as soon as he can. So that's all we did. No repairs could be done, so all we could do was troubleshoot problems and let the next shift know what we found. By the way, I would send our boss a reminder email every day that we still didn't have our gear. Did your machine break down? Need a new coolant filter? New hydraulic pump? Well, too effing bad. All we did besides troubleshooting was just sit on our butts on our phones with an angry crew of machine operators leering at us. Since informing/reminding our boss isn't working, we figured he would pick up on what's going on eventually if we kept going like this. Since we couldn't do actual repairs, we had to leave machines down the entire shift sometimes. When the next shift would come in, they would have a huge pile of work to do that we couldn't do. We tried to explain why we couldn't do the work, but they were having none of it. They didn't like this, and some of them started complaining to our boss. This went on for about a week. Next thing you know, Our boss shows up on our shift one day and sits us both down and tries to lay into us that our work ethic is pure crap, and if we don't stop being lazy, then he will contact HR and they will find 2 replacements who are willing to work. I explained to him that our company's safety policies are 0 tolerance, and that since we didn't have the proper PPE yet, we couldn't do much work. He asked why the F we don't have our PPE, and I told him we haven't received it yet. He asked why the F haven't we informed him of this, and I then reminded him of the email we had both sent him a week ago about it, and his response. He then said that we should have reminded him, but then I showed him my outbox with all the reminder emails I had sent that were unopened. He finally calmed down and said that he hadn't seen them because he was busy and that he'd get us our PPE as soon as possible. 2 days later, we had our PPE. Turns out, we were late getting our gear because they had been shoved into the corner of the main site's mechanics office and no one is sure how they ended up there. You see, that's why you gotta send reminder emails. They should have done it like every hour, so this guy's inbox is just filled with reminders, then he has no excuse whatsoever. Okie dokie, I'll do as I'm told. A little bit of backstory. I'm part of a 4-woman team who does the cleaning at a well-known fast food restaurant. We all agreed on the specific way that we were to close up each night. Clean the different areas of the store, and then block them off using chairs as barriers. Now, we would get the odd moron try to climb over said chairs, but most of the time, the customers understood it was closed off. This system worked out well, and we would get out on time, or a little after, depending on how busy the night was. This was going on for 18 months. The store has not been open long. It's worth noting that we wouldn't close the upstairs area completely until an hour before we were due to finish, doing most of the cleaning jobs beforehand and leaving a few odd bits once the gate was closed. Anyway, this all changed about 6 months ago. One of our managers went and ratted us out to the big boss for how we were closing down the areas, citing health and safety as an issue for using the chairs to block off areas. Okay, so we used reversed signs on the tables just to stop people from using the areas. This was also a big no reason given. And also using wet floor cones to block off areas were a big no. Again, no reason given. Basically a because we said so attitude. So, we adhered to the new way of doing things, still did most of the jobs beforehand, and a few after the gate was shut. Well, a few days ago, one of the other women I work with got a massive telling off for doing something she shouldn't have done and has been told 100 times not to do. Don't know what was done at this point. And for some reason, bringing my name up into the conversation, even though I had been off for 3 days, which just angered me. She has now been told not to do any cleaning jobs related to closing down until the gate gets shut. Yeah, an hour before we are scheduled to leave. We aren't even allowed to close it early, even if there is no one in the store. You can probably guess where this is going. Last night was my close down, with the manager that had started all this off. Muhaha! I start my shift. I get pulled to one side and told about what happened. Apparently, my coworker put reserved signs out for an actual party and just didn't turn up and just forgot to take them off as they were busy. And the new rule. Sweet, no problem. Cue the time it comes to close the gate. Nice, quiet night. No one hanging around upstairs. I start my close down, which I obviously don't finish within the hour I have left. Not to mention, I am also unable to keep an eye on the downstairs either, which gets a bit messy. My clock out time arrives. I tell my manager I'm off. They hit the roof that the place is a mess and most of the jobs are not done upstairs. I tell them, yeah, because I only had an hour to do it in. They try and make me stay to finish the job. I refuse. They threaten disciplinary. I say, go ahead. Not being disciplined my entire 10 years there, and it stays on your record for like 6 months. So, I didn't care. I went in for my shift today, get called straight into the office, disciplinary form waiting on the table for me to sign, and a smirk on the manager's face from the other night. The big boss looks angry at me. Until I tell my story. Both their faces change. Apparently, the manager had to finish off my job last night, which is hilarious. But never told Big Boss why she had to. Once I told him about the new rule, which he hadn't authorized, shock, horror, he hit the roof, apologized to me, and sent me on my way. I could hear him shouting for a good 20 minutes after that while I was laughing. Didn't speak to the manager all day. At home now, laughing about it all while writing this. I don't know if it's just me, but I love stories like this, when there's like 3 layers. There's the employee, the manager, and then the big boss. And then the manager like gets power hungry and like tries to abuse the employee, and then the big boss comes in and just does the same. It's always perfect. Wanna try and belittle me? I'll make you late for your precious flight. I work for a contracting company in Pennsylvania. I work as a traffic controller, meaning I'm the guy that sets up the traffic cones and signs at construction sites, as well as hold the sign with stop and slow on either side. As you can guess, because I'm sure some of you do just a little bit, people hate me when I'm at work. I get constant remarks and comments thrown at me simply because I inconvenience people a few minutes on their commute. But I don't care because I'm making sure the workers, my co-workers, and the drivers are all safe and no one gets hurt or seriously injured. So one day, I'm working a job with 4 other traffic controllers. Usually, it's only 2, me and someone else. But we were on a busy interaction, so we needed more people. I was at the top of a hill, which flowed into a huge S-bend before the intersection. I was there to make sure that people slowed down before the bend to avoid them blowing past or hitting my coworker at the bottom. I was to only stop traffic when I was radioed to. This was only for the few times the work trucks were moving out of the work zone. Things were going smoothly at first. Eventually, I got the call to hold traffic. So, I flip my sign to stop and traffic comes to a stop perfectly fine. Then, I hear it. A few cars down the line, a woman is blaring her horn non-stop and screaming out the window of her Mercedes. This Karen is just wailing that I stopped everyone. She eventually gets out of her car and comes stomping up to me. Now, I can't leave my post. However, I was fully prepared to whack this woman with my sign if needed. She finally reaches me and says this. "What are you doing?" "I'm holding the traffic, ma'am." "Let us through. I have to be at the airport." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we have workers moving down there. You're just gonna have to wait." "This is ridiculous. Just tell them to move. I have to go." Yes, that exaggerated. "I'm sorry." She cuts me off. "Listen, you lowlife, good-for-nothing slime ball. Get out of my way and do your job." She storms back to her car. Again, I have thick skin, so I didn't care about the comment. However, I am so not against some good old malicious compliance. She wants me to do my job? Well, alrighty then. I get the call to let traffic through and begin to do so. I noticed the 2 cars that were behind Karen had turned off into side roads, so she was the last one in the line. Oh, perfect, I think to myself. I radio down to the guy at the bottom of the hill and tell him I'll be holding traffic for a bit. By law, in Pennsylvania, I can hold traffic for 15 minutes. So, I decide to use that time to get some malicious compliance on Karen. I let the car in front of her go and stop her. She starts back up again. "What are you doing?" "Sorry, ma'am, there's an obstruction in the road. You'll need to wait till it's moved." "What was the obstruction, you ask?" "Well, it was my lunchbox that I threw into the middle of the road after stopping her." She went off for 15 minutes on me about how she was going to miss her flight and how I'm a dirty convict. Never been to jail, by the way. 15 minutes goes by and I move my lunchbox and let her through. Thankfully, only one other car came by in that time and it turned off into a driveway, so I wasn't inconveniencing an innocent here. She pulls up and yells at me and asks, "What were you doing, you lowlife?" I reply with a very snarky, "Just doing my job, ma'am." She drives away in a huff. When we finished up, the others asked what I was doing and I told them what happened. They thought it was the funniest thing they'd heard that week. I don't know if she was late for her flight, but I hope she was. Moral of the story, kids, don't mess with traffic controllers. We can mess up your day more than you think. I really don't understand why people hate these traffic controllers. When he said at the start, people hate me when I'm at my job. Like, why? They're doing their job. Just wait for 15 minutes. It's not that hard. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.